What's up, everyone? Alex Harvey here with Local Legends, and we are on episode 6, I believe. I'm here with Mike Wood. He's an entrepreneur, and he's been doing a lot of amazing things. He's an inventor. He has his own books that he's making, public speaking. He's just all sorts of amazing things, and I've had the pleasure to talk to him and get to learn more about his life. So, first of all, Mike, how are we doing today?
We're doing good. You have to make a choice, I think, each morning when you wake up. So lots of chaos going on in life right now, but I'm doing good.
Perfect. Well, I'd love to hear that. And there is a lot of chaos going on in the world. Well, I'll start off where most people wouldn't. You have worn many hats in the business industry. You've had you've been a business coach, eBay seller since '99. You've been a product inventor, author, public speaker. When someone asks you, what do you do? How do you even explain everything that you do in a nice little paragraph?
So, it kind of depends on the situation, who's asking and whether my wife's beside me. I thought of a story that came to mind when you asked that question. Years ago, I had started doing some real estate investing, and I'd been coaching real estate notes, teaching people how to broker notes, and I'd been brokering notes myself. And this is, privately held mortgage notes, right? And so I'd gone out and found some investors, and then I did the marketing to find the people who held the notes, and I brokered the notes. I took a cut from the middle and connected them, and it started doing that. And then I had a lease option property that I had bought and had got somebody in there leasing it with the option to buy. And this was probably about 2006, 2007, right before everything blew up. And it must have been 2007 because my wife and I went on a 10-year anniversary cruise. Ooh. And so we're on this cruise and we're mingling and talking to people and sit down at a table and meeting somebody, that we didn't know, and just talking. And they asked, well, what do you do? And I said, well, I'm an investor. I'm a real estate investor, because that's what I had started and that's what I'd begun and that's where I wanted to go, right? But I was also coaching as a job. And so my wife, who has the negative side of life, she saw it more as, I'm a coach, I have a job, and then on the side I'm doing, whatever I'm doing. And that's all she kind of saw things. And so I said, I'm a real estate investor. And she said, no, you're not, something like that. And and just all my confidence just shattered in that moment. What are you doing? I'm trying to make contacts here. This is who I am aspiring to be. And, that was a blow to my confidence at that time. And, I was really frustrated with her. And I had to talk with her about it, how am I ever going to be something more than just an employee if I'm only allowed to say I'm an employee? And that's what I've worked on myself, is to get to that point where, when somebody asks, what do you do? I can give the high level dream or the response of, this is what I am and who I am, rather than, oh, I'm just an employee, kind of thing. And I think that's important. So, long answer to your question there, but these days, like I say, it kind of depends. If I'm in a situation, since I'm doing carpet cleaning part-time right now, and I'm in a situation where I think there might be an opportunity to bring that in and get the company some, a new customer, then I might say, well, I clean carpets and upholstery and tile and whatnot. But if I'm in more of a situation where I can help somebody progress in business or teach them how to start their own business or something like that, then it's going to be something more like, well, I help people solve their problems.
Yeah.
So I'm going to judge it on the situation that I'm in.
That makes a lot of sense, and I definitely need to get some trainings from you about public speaking. I can do this. When it comes to speaking probably more than 10 people, I'm cooked. I cannot do it. Like, I just stuttering.
You can.
I
You
can.
can do it. You just need practice.
Exactly. And that's the part I really don't want to do.
Yeah, and that's something that I really like to focus on, because I'm at this point in life. Like, I've coached people for years. I've had them tell me how inspiring I am, how they love what I can help them become and achieve. And I'm at the point where I'm like, okay, it doesn't matter whether I make money at it or not. That's my calling in life. That's where I need to go. And the primary thing I have learned over the years is words have power, thoughts have power, and emotions have more power than we understand and believe as human beings, right? We think that we're this physical meat sack, and we're so much more than that. And so, careful of your words. When you want to achieve something, don't say, I can't, because that's owning the limitations, right? And so instead, what I teach people is I'm working on improving that, right? Because as you start telling yourself that, then you recognize, no, I can do anything I want to achieve. I just need some practice at it. I'm just, I have room for improvement. And say that. Don't say, I am not good at it. Say, I have room to improve in those situations.
I'm definitely going to need to start doing that, because unfortunately, I do say can't a lot. So
it's human nature. We all hear it, and we take that on because that's culture, And so what I'm hoping is maybe I can be one of those out there to help make a shift in that culture, so that as a human species, we start leveling up and recognize we're more than we have believed we are.
Okay, well, that's definitely some really good advice. Take that with as much passion as you can, because he's coming from quite a few years of public speaking and being able to coach people on how to do all this. So whatever he says, please listen to him. Well, you coach people for over 2 decades on building businesses and finding success. Looking back, what is one core principle that's taught you or others about how to live every day?
It's along the same lines there. That's and I think we all have a different base level, and we learn from wherever we are as we're growing, as we come into this world. And I think there are levels. There are different. We have different bodies, let's say. So we have this physical body. Yes, this is a chemical, electrical, physical being that we are. But we also have a spiritual body. We also have an energetic body. There are so many philosophies around this where, some people will tell you we have, dozens of different levels to who we are. And so as we think about that, we can say, okay, I'm limited by my DNA and genetics, right? So we can say, hey, there are certain genetics. I have genetics from my father and my mother and from my ancestors. And there's a certain level of that that's true. And in science, they can look at your DNA and they can say, well, you have this gene, this gene, this gene. However, you can also look at studies where they've taken identical twins who were separated at birth. And so they're living in totally different situations. They all have the exact same genes, or they both have the exact same genes. But one of them gets cancer and one of them doesn't. One of them has a sick lifestyle and one of them has an abundant lifestyle. They're identical as far as the physical makeup, and yet in different environments, they live totally different. And so this brings in what is called epigenetics. So genetics are the physical side of us. The epigenetics talks about how our surroundings, our culture can switch on or off the genes.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah. And so you start learning that, and I've studied this stuff for years, and so it's in my mind where I know it's. So one of the easiest things for everybody that, something you've all heard of, to kind of give an example of this, is the placebo effect.
Yeah. Okay. I do know that one.
Okay. We've all heard about the placebo effect for the most part. Everybody's heard about that. That's pretty common. It's talked about. And the placebo effect is where we have, and they've done trials on this, right? So they have a group of people, they have this new drug that they're going to put out. And it's interesting that the drug industry does this, and they still focus on the quality of the drug rather than the effects of the placebo. The placebo is just a sugar pill, right? That's all it is. It's a pill that looks like the drug, but it's sugar. That's it. And then you've got the real drug. And they do these studies. And in many of these studies, those who take the placebo have as good of results or better than those who take the drug. How is that possible?
That's insane.
Right? I mean, you start thinking about that. If that's our mind, that's our belief system, that is faith acting on matter. That's the only thing you can attribute it to. Right? What else is there?
Yeah, you can't really describe the effect of it. It's just, honestly, I say it's a miracle, because turning a complete thought into pure reality when even everyone else knows that it's completely false is insane to me. I love it.
Mm-hmm. And there are so many things coming out nowadays, more and more, that we're recognizing the power of the mind and what we can do. And you have the power to affect matter. And that's the bottom line. So when I'm coaching people on what was the question? I think you asked what was the biggest struggle, or
no, or what was one core principle that taught?
Okay,
you still buy it today.
Right, and so it is that fact of faith, I think. And so for me, long answer again, right?
But we just went on the full tangent. That was awesome. I love it.
My set point has been, since I was young, it has been. Belief can make things happen. Faith. And if you have faith and you believe that all is going to be well, then it will be. And I believe that my mother taught me that. My mom passed away. We talked about this off camera before, but my mom passed away when I was 16 from multiple sclerosis, MS. And so I watched her for years declining. But during those years, she was the one who taught me faith and belief and strength and just that spiritual and emotional power within. My father worked his tail off, just constantly working overtime to pay the bills and keep everything afloat. And both my father and mother showed us immense love. And they taught us to serve, to give, to go the extra mile, to do all of the best things that we're taught in every religion that humanity should do to lift one another.
Yeah.
And so that was my environment growing up. And so I think that taught me to have just this level of faith and belief. And so that's kind of my set point. I live at a higher vibration, I guess, than many people. And so for me, it's always, what if good happens? What if this turns out? What if this works out? Instead of, oh, what if it doesn't work? That so many of us are stuck in. And so I've always had that, I come back to that, and I have my down days. I mean,
yeah, everyone does,
right? Everybody's got those days. And I have days where I just feel like nothing's going to work out. And what is the purpose of life? It's just, I certainly have those days, but most of my days, I want to be happy. I want to have that joy within. And so that is what I come back to, is feeling that gratitude, feeling that joy. And that is what I learned. If I can teach that to others, if I can teach them to seek gratitude, to feel gratitude and to feel the love inside first, that's the basis, that's the foundation of belief and faith. And faith is action. Faith is not just something we believe in that we say we believe in. Faith is achieving something, creating something in this world because we believe so strongly. And that is my belief, that is my foundation. And so I feel like that is what I go back to is no matter how bad it gets, no matter how bad, how tough life is, it's there for me. These experiences are there for me to learn from, for me to grow from. There were times in coaching where I would talk to somebody and they would say, I broke my back and I had these, I had this, these 2 broken discs or a broken disc or whatever. And I'd be like, oh, I'm so grateful that I've been through that. I'm so grateful that I had that experience, that I've broken my back, that I've had that extreme pain. I've had appendicitis and had my appendix out, one of the worst pains I've ever been through. And I'm grateful that I was able to go through that because now I can empathize with those who say, I'm experiencing this. I've been through chemotherapy, and that was worse than physical pain. The nausea that those drugs create, and just feeling like, I was in the doctor's office, IV in, doing the treatment, and just feeling like I'm dying, and asked the nurse, am I going to die? I feel like I'm dying. And then going home after the treatment and just being sick. And it just felt like it went on forever. I would never want to go through that again. I'll take any kind of physical pain over the nausea that I experienced there. But I'm grateful for that experience because now when I hear somebody else is going through that, I feel like I can empathize with them. I know what they're going through. I've been through that. I've experienced that. And having that experience gives me the ability to connect with them a little closer. Yeah. So I think it's just, see life as opportunities, as growth, and make faith your foundation, and come back to, this is for me. I'm learning, I'm growing, and I can overcome.
That's very well spoken. And I don't think a whole lot of people have even that close to that foundation. They just blame whatever happens to them, little poor me, and not actually see as opportunity or appreciation so they can learn from it and grow into it or grow from it. But definitely what you said is very well spoken.
Yeah. Seek to grow from those opportunities, everything there, because this is, I tell you that, that's my set point. That's my habit. That's the habit that I have created in life. I live with somebody who has the complete opposite. My spouse, and I love her to death. And we have these conversations every week. Just this morning, we had this conversation before I came here about, she knows these principles, but she grew up with 2 parents that were totally negative, and there was never enough, and there's not enough money, and there's, it was all lack mentality and the negative side of things. And so that was her environment. And so that was the habit that was ingrained in her early on. Mm. And so whatever our habit is, as we grow in life, especially if we have that for years in our adolescence, it's difficult to overcome and to make that change. If we have believed there is lack for our entire life, then we can hear these principles. We can know in our head, we can theorize and recognize the value, or see that other people can overcome. We can see that there's power in faith, but our core belief, our habits, our addictions, that's what it is. It's an addiction. Our addiction is to the lack. And so we could spend an hour in the morning doing yoga or meditating or prayer or whatever it is that lifts us. But if we spend the rest of the day back in that habit, that addiction of lack, where's the power?
Yeah,
right?
It doesn't do anything to do all that in the morning. It just kind of pointless at that point.
It has to be something where all throughout the day, every time we have that lack feeling, the emotion, because it starts in the emotion. It's not even the thought. The emotion is the foundation. So as soon as we feel that lack, as soon as we think that lack thought, those are the points where we have to start making a change, and where we have to take a little bit of time to meditate and say, I can, right? And to calm ourselves, to avoid the anger, avoid the judgment, to avoid the lack, avoid the scarcity, the victim mentality.
Yeah.
We've got to switch it in that moment. And so it's creating a new habit, breaking the habit. Joe Dispenza has a wonderful book called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. He talks about this. I love Joe Dispenza. If you haven't heard of him, go look him up. Dr. Joe Dispenza. His career is teaching this stuff. And it was something that he fell into by accident, I've learned. A difficult accident for him, but it's breaking the habit of being yourself, losing your old mind, and creating a new one. And that's not an easy thing if we have an addiction for 50 years of our life, 40 years, 30 years, whatever it is. It's going to take some work. And that work has to go on throughout the day, every day. But the thing about it is, if you commit to it and you commit to making that difference, changing who you are within, after a couple of weeks, any habit, if you put it into practice hardcore for at least 2 weeks, then it becomes routine. Routine. It becomes your new ritual. It becomes the new habit, and you strengthen. And even then, you might falter and you might have low days, but recognize that it's not like this and then plummeting all the way back down. It's like this, a stairway, right? Even though you feel like you're plateauing maybe, but you've actually improved from where you used to be a year ago or 10 years ago or whatever. And that's what we have to recognize, is it's a stairway moving up, and there is improvement there. So
I don't think a whole lot of people truly see that, which definitely is a good thing to start learning and getting in the rhythm of doing.
Yeah. And the more of us that do it, this is another part of what Joe is doing, and many others out there in today's industry or today's world, is we're starting to recognize that the world is full of frequencies. Think about this, what we're doing right now, and those who are listening to it, you're receiving this through some kind, it might be wired, it might be satellite, it might be cell phone data, but there's a frequency sending this information through the ether, through the air. It's always there. All of these, it's just like the radio. You tune it to the different channels. That information is always there.
Yeah.
We're the same way. We're starting to recognize that our brains, our minds, our consciousness is all interconnected. And the more people lift, the more of us who raise our vibration and focus on that faith and that positive, the more that builds in the world as a whole. And so it's going to lift all of humanity. And so focusing more on love, gratitude, faith, belief, and the high end of things, the more we do that, and the more individuals who do that, the less fear will have power over humanity. And it's going to raise the whole consciousness of humanity. I feel like I see that happening, and I believe that's where we're headed.
I really hope soon, because that would be insane and personally beautiful to see everyone just rise up above that. I hate to change the subject, but with you being an inventor, you created ViperSharp to CraftEasyTools to selling on eBay. You've started multiple businesses from scratch. What's been your biggest lesson from building things with your own two hands? And how do you know when the idea is worth pursuing?
Okay, so I feel like this, you got to get a little bit analytical here, right? Belief, positive thoughts, and hope is only going to go so far. But so how do I know if something is worth putting effort into? I've done enough study and research with online marketing to know the tools, to be able to see whether there's value there. And so when it comes to business specific, if you're looking to create an invention, if you're looking to start a business, if, whatever it is business wise, there has to be enough demand to warrant the effort, right? And I have businesses that I run right now where there is not a huge amount of demand. And so what I look at there is, okay, with the demand that's there, looking at my cost, my time cost, is it worth doing? And so you got to kind of evaluate all of that. So I have one, for example, that I just stumbled into by accident. One of those things. So many of my businesses have been that way, right? That's my book. Just analyze enough to say, and you can get this data free from Google Keyword Planner. You just go out and do a Google search, Keyword Planner. You can go on there and you create an account in Google AdWords. And these days, they've really tried to force you into creating where you have to put in a credit card and create an ad and a campaign. But last I looked, there was still an option to a hidden link down below where you could say, I already know, or I'm an expert or whatever. And it'll get you into the tool without having to put in a credit card or build an ad campaign. And you can go into this keyword tool and do a search on a keyword, and you put 2 or 3 relevant topics in. Let's say model trains, for example, model trains, model train cars, model train scenery, model train products. You put 4 or 5 words in there and run the search, and it tells you an estimated amount of data, how many searches there are each month on that topic. And it gives you a list of usually hundreds of other keywords relative to what you put in. And so that's what I do. If I'm going to go start something, I'm going to look at that first and say, okay, how much interest is there out there, right? Another technical side of it that we can look at is we've got all these social media platforms. So Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Pinterest. So you can go out and do a search on that topic on any of these platforms and look at the groups and how many people are in these groups and how many groups there are. And that gives you another bit of gauge too. So if we see that there are millions of potential followers of these different groups and influencers out there, well, okay, there's probably enough room for me to jump into that industry and make some money. And so that's what I generally do when I'm looking at something. But I've learned the other side of it is it has to be something that I have some kind of interest in if I want to succeed, because you will succeed better if you're passionate about it.
Yeah.
I don't care, I don't want to be interested, or I don't have to have an interest. I just want it to make money. And I get that, but first you got to be willing to change inside. Second, we've got to make sure that there's demand. And then if we can combine those two, if we can bring who we are inside, our passions, our desires with, together with something that has a high demand, that is the recipe for great success. And you'll be a lot more successful on that than if you try to jump into something that you don't know much about, you don't really have an interest in it. And you have to not only figure out the marketing and whatnot, if you're new to all that, but you have to learn the industry. It adds a level of challenge. So why make it hard on yourself? If you can figure out a way to do what you love and make that profitable, that's the best way by far to go.
Yeah, like why get into something that you have to do X, Y, Z just to figure out what you're actually trying to sell, just to not be passionate? Because with me in real estate, I love being able to help people answer all the questions that some people don't know, like earnest money or how to even get started. So I love being passionate about that they can feel the energy coming out when I'm trying to teach them and everything. But if I didn't like doing that, then there's not going to be any energy, any connection. It's just going to be like, yeah, here's this, sign here. It's just, I don't understand why people would get into something if there's just no passion to back it up.
Right. It makes such a difference. And, as you were saying that, I thought about, again, going back to the people I've coached and some of the comments I've had. Many of the people I talked to said, I don't want my face online. I don't want to do any videos. I don't want to do social media. I don't want to put myself out there. And what that tells me is they want a change in their life, but they don't want to change.
Yeah.
And that doesn't work, right? It doesn't mesh. And that was one of the hardest things to mentor people on and to do in any kind of consulting, is to help people understand, look, if you have this life right now, this is your box, this is your sphere, whatever, and you want something different, it's not outside. It's not outside of you. It's not saying, well, just give me the techniques, give me the product, tell me what to sell, how to sell it. It's not about the technique. It's about changing what's inside this box or this sphere. It's about changing who you are first. You've got to be willing to change who you are within and become something more and level up in order to have a different life. It's not about the strategies. It's not about what's outside. All of these things, if you go online, you see all these business op things and talking about, anybody can do it and you can learn and they talk a good talk and it sounds really good. And what I found is people will get all excited about that because these people are good at selling the excitement, right? And they talk about how you don't have to, and you don't have to, and all the things you don't have to do, but you can still achieve. But some of that is quasi lying. Some of it's flat out lies. You have to change. You have to do something within. And then when people buy the program, they initiate that first step. Say, yeah, I'm gonna do that, and they buy that initial little program, and then they get sold on the next program of, well, how do I do this? And, I still don't know how to go about it, and I'm struggling with it. And so then somebody calls them and says, well, you need a coach, right? And that's where my job came in, as a coach, to walk them through step by step. And what I found was, as a coach, my job was more motivating, pushing, keeping them accountable, somebody to keep you accountable. And granted, we all need that to a certain degree. Many of us don't do that very well ourselves.
Yeah.
So it's good to have a coach. It's good to have a mentor. But the next step is to recognize that when your mentor says, hey, if you want, let's break it down to the simplest. If we want to lift weights, right? If we want to build muscle, we have to get to a point where we start from the 10-pound weight and we move to the 15-pound weight and then 20-pound weight. We might have a goal of lifting a 50-pound dumbbell. We don't go straight from 10 to 50.
Yeah.
There's steps, right? And there's consistency. We have to have a plan to do that consistently. And so we're going from not lifting weights ever, right? Or very little or sporadically, to conditioning ourselves to lifting the weights on a schedule, and then increasing the weights and bringing more in until we get to the level where we want to be. It's the same thing in anything in life. And when I was coaching people and teaching them how to do the different things, they wouldn't do. Most people who failed were basically unwilling to change their habit to do those steps. And I could see with everybody, I could usually tell in the first call whether they were going to be successful or not, because it's all in the attitude. It's in the emotion. It's inside of us. And if you're not willing to make that change inside, you're not going to be willing to do the strategy work or the consistency as you move forward. Jim Gaffigan is a comedian, has a great bit on this where he talks about people wanting to, go to the gym and lose weight, right? And he says, in January you've got this New Year's resolution and you're all pumped. You're like, yeah, I'm gonna go get a membership, and you go get that membership, and then you've got to dedicate to going to work. And he says something like, I make the goal and I say, oh well, maybe tomorrow I'll start, and the next day comes and he still doesn't want to go and talks about, the personal trainer. He's like, the personal trainer is a person you pay at the place where you already paid. The person you pay to train you, teach you to work out at the place where you already paid to work out. And he says, it gets to the point where, well, maybe tomorrow I'll start. And then the third day, I'm going to eat some donuts. And fourth day, you know what? I'm happy with the way I am. And too often that's what we do is we say we want the change, but when the work is presented, we don't want to do the work.
Yeah.
And that it all starts within. Everything. I don't care what it is. Everything starts in the mind, which isn't in our brain, really. It's our consciousness is the mind, and it's beyond our body. But it starts in the mind, and then that allows us to make the changes in our state, in our physical, in our body. And if you're not willing to start there, nothing's going to change.
No, has to start somewhere. And biggest thing is to start with, like, I want to do this instead of trying to postpone it. Just like go do it. Like with this, you would never catch me doing this back in high school. I would probably not even be talking to you, but I knew I needed to change and wanted something else, and I made the change.
And then you took the next step, right?
A lot of steps.
Yeah, several steps. I often say if we want to break it down simple, the desire, so the want, right? So I want. Then we've got to take it. There's 3 levels that we need to take it to. There's I can. So we first admit I can. We stop saying I can't. So I can. I will. That's stating that I'm willing to. I'm going to put in the effort. I can. I will. I am. Or I am. I mean, that's what it's basically the can, the willingness, and the becoming, because that's ultimately what we want to get to is becoming the change. So I can, I will. So we know that we can. We're giving a commitment, and then I am. This is the affirmation stating that I am this. I am the new person, right? But if we don't first admit that we can change and then admit that we will do the work, then that I am, the body won't believe it. You can say I am wealthy all you want, but inside your mind is telling you, no, you're not. You're broke as can be, I am losing weight. No, you're not. You fatso. You ate that donut this morning, Your body recognizes the lie of affirmations. So we have to take all those steps to I can, I will, I am.
I like it. So with you being the part-time carpet cleaner and you putting yourself out there to be a public speaker, making these books that you're planning on doing, oh my God, yeah, tongue twister. How do you balance all of these projects with trying to put yourself out there to make those dreams come true, to providing for your family, to looking at the next big thing that you want to pursue and make something big of yourself? How do you enjoin all of those together? I know, difficult question.
You know what? One of the things that helps me more than anything is when I hear somebody that I look up to admit that they have experienced failure, whether it be in business or life or whatever. When I see them talk about how they're this millionaire, they're living their dream, and for me, it's usually the people who are the teachers of the mindset and the motivational speakers and stuff. When I hear them talk about their struggles that they had, that gives me so much power within. That helps me recognize, okay, they're not this superhuman, right? They're just like me. They're no different than any one of us on the planet. And so I hope that I can express that. So when you say, how do I balance all that? I don't. There are so many days that I don't balance that. But when I do, what it comes down to is again going back to those emotions. I have gone to meditation as my superpower. It is what helps me ground and to bring me back to the confidence level. And so this morning, for example, when I woke up, my first thought was gratitude. I'm grateful for love, just letting my body feel the love and the gratitude. And I try to wake up that way every morning. And then I put my mind into recognizing, just meditation, which, focusing on the body, feeling the body, and then focusing on space around the body and getting outside of myself. And then I try to avoid going to social media or email or anything with the phone, but I do use the phone to do guided meditations. And so this morning, that's what I did, is I've disciplined myself enough to where I can wake up in the morning, I can go to my phone, turn it on, ignore all notifications, not go to any of the social media or the emails or anything that I need to do for the day, but just go to my choice of meditation app. And I opened that up this morning and I found the meditation that I wanted to do as a guided meditation. Put my earphones in, and then I prefer to lay down in meditation. Sometimes I'll do it sitting, and a lot of them say, sit up, feet flat on the floor.
Yeah.
I ignore that and I lay down, because most of the time that's what works for me. And so most of mine, so I laid there in bed and I listened to this guided meditation. And then when this guided meditation ended, I continued my meditation, and that allowed me to put my body in a physical state where I could relax all my tight muscles, all the pains, all the things that prevent me from focusing, because we have a lot of those physical pains as we grow in life, right? Yeah. This is the interesting thing, is that your doctor will talk about how stress can affect your body and how you need to eliminate stress, and stress can cause ulcers, and stress can cause muscle pain and back pain and migraines. They recognize that, but they don't seem to make the connection that is thought and emotion controlling matter. And if you can make yourself sick, well, then you can make yourself heal. You can make yourself better. And so I've focused more on that and recognizing, okay, I've got this tightness in my back that sometimes creates migraines. So if I can start in the morning with relaxing that tightness, eliminating that, thanking it, thank you for the experience. Thank you for helping me recognize I have muscles there. Thank you for the pain and the reminder. Now I let you go. Right. And go through that experience to where before I came today, and before I got in the car to drive, that tightness was gone. Like that's something that for me, I have the weight of the world. I have all these things, all these businesses, and not all of them are going well. Some of them are struggling dramatically. I have a huge amount of debt with one of them that I probably shouldn't have jumped into quite as, I screwed up. I made some mistakes in that business for sure. And now I'm living with it. And that's stress. Right. And then that can create a lot of tension. And so when I wake up knowing that I have to work on growing that business, as well as handling all the others, as well as my children and my wife and life, I have to do something to make sure that stress doesn't limit my abilities in my daily world. And so the meditation does that a lot, so that I can bring myself back to a state of focus. And I've even found, so I'll do the meditations and guided meditations, and then yoga nidra is a form of meditation. And so that's one where I have a favorite on YouTube, a favorite person that does these, and I can go, if I'm starting to feel that stress, I've done this at work before, where I'll I'll end a stressful day and my muscles are getting tight. And I feel like if I don't do something now, I'm going to have a migraine and I might be laid out for a day. And that's a wasted day where I can't do anything.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's gone 2 or 3 days of just a pain on, 7, 8 on the scale. And you just can't function when that happens. So when I recognize that early, I can do a 12 to 20 minute yoga nidra and eliminate that pain. All that tension gone, just melt away. And then I can get back to what I'm doing. And so that's what I try to do to balance all this. I've got to have something to ground myself, to bring myself back, and then condition myself, because I still have days. Just last week, I told you about my migraine over the weekend, and I did my presentation on Saturday after very poor sleep that Friday night because I pushed it Friday, ended up with a migraine, couldn't sleep because the pain was so bad, and finally got maybe 2 or 3 hours of sleep that night, and then got up and went and did that presentation. It's that habit of recognizing when the tension comes, when the thoughts begin, when that stress begins. That's where you've got to get yourself in the habit of, okay, relax. And sometimes that's all it is a deep breath. It's incredible what just a good deep breath, especially when you're breathing from the stomach, expand the lower part of your lungs first, and then let it out. That simple breath relaxes your nervous system. And so those are the types of things that I do to help me balance all of that so that I can make things happen.
Well, I have a very interesting question for you. You talk about being so grateful, talking about being so appreciative, being probably the happiest person I've met in a long time, but you've literally been through hell and back. You almost died rock climbing. You lost your mom at a young age. You went through chemo.
Appendix.
Yeah, your appendix.
Yeah.
All of that.
Herniated disc operation. I mean, yeah.
How do you become so happy at the end of it? Like, how do you continue to remind yourself that life is beautiful after literally everything that's been happened to you?
Happiness is a choice. That's what it comes down. It's that simple. Happiness is a choice. I have learned, and this is something I'm planning on teaching as I go through my public speaking and coaching career, as I finally begin doing that on my own. And I'm going to give you a story for that. Again, I love stories, right?
Yeah,
so
I love them.
A couple of weeks ago, I was working a long, hard day cleaning carpets. I was depressed. I'd had 2 or 3 days of just depression. I was tired. I was still doing things. I was still meditating. I still had, a level of gratitude, but I was tired. And what I didn't recognize at that time was depression. The tiredness was a depression. And I just thought I was tired, and I hate to think I'm over 50, so I'm getting older, so the body's going to be more tired. I hate that mentality. No. Quit saying that. Quit telling me that, because I don't want to believe that, right?
Yeah.
And so I tell people when they talk about that, I'm like, no, cancel. Quit saying that, because if you believe it, it becomes true. And, as 52, I can go through a day of work as hard as these 22-year-old guys that are working at the place where I am, and get as much done as they can. And so if I can do that, then there's no reason for me to accept an excuse that I'm older and therefore I'm going to be more tired, I'm going to have aches and pains. No, forget that. I can overcome all of that. But I was in this depressed state. I was tired. So I worked a long day. I was on my last job. I think it was 3 jobs. And I'm out in Eagle Mountain, where I live. And this was a mile or 2 away from my house. And I'm working, cleaning these people's house. And I was dead tired. I felt beat. I was just thinking of going home and just taking a shower and then hit the bed and just sleep. I needed a nap. I was just exhausted. It'd been a long day, a lot of hard work. And these were my thoughts as I was cleaning their stairs. And stairs is hard work because I'm leaning over, so I have to tighten my core so my back's strengthened. And it's a blessing in disguise, right? I'm getting a good workout, and I'm using this hand tool, this hard work on the stairs, and I'm thinking to myself, I just want to go home. I just want to sleep. I'm exhausted. And I got done. Stairs were the last part of that. And I got done. And I had talked to these guys earlier and asked, what do you do for work? And they mentioned to me that they were coaches, mentors. They were basically life coaches, and they taught people how to expand. They did what I want to do and what I have done in the past and what I want to do on my own. They were doing that on their own. And so I got done and I said, do you mind if I pick your brains a little bit about business? And they're like, sure, yeah, let's talk. And we started talking, and they explained some things and basically gave me a free coaching session, right? And about 10 minutes into this, I realized I was no longer exhausted. I was not tired. End of the day, 10-hour day of hard work and a 10-minute conversation with these guys about the power of the mind and mindset and emotions and what they teach and what I teach, and 10 minutes of that, and just 10 minutes before I was exhausted, ready to hit the bed, and I realized, holy cow, I have energy. I'm not tired. I'm not exhausted. How is this even possible? It was a reminder to me again of what I've been teaching people and what I had forgotten that day. And I brought it up to them, tears in my eyes, and I'm like, guys, I really needed this conversation. And I explained to them how tired I had been and how much energy I felt. And Aaron was the man's name. And he said, yeah, energy is a choice. And that I was like, yeah, I need that reminder. And so how do I stay happy? Happiness is a choice. Gratitude is a choice. Love is a choice. When you're on this is the easiest place to grow and strengthen as a human being. When you're driving on the freeway, right? Yes. This is the easiest place for everybody to get angry and upset, but it's also the easiest place for you to feel love for your fellow man and to change who you are. Because when you want to get somewhere and traffic comes to a slowdown and it's stopped and you're at a dead standstill on the freeway, you can choose to be angry. You can choose to be frustrated. You can feel all those emotions that will make you sick. What good will it do you?
Yeah.
Is it going to change traffic? Is it going to speed things up? Are you going to get to your location on time? No, right? Nothing is going to change. No matter how you feel, no matter what your thoughts are, nothing is going to change as far as the physical situation that you are in at that time. You're there, you're going to be there. So why not use that time to change within, right? Just think if everybody out there in traffic took that approach, and instead of being angry and honking the horn or cussing and yelling and road rage and all this stuff that we see happen, instead of that, if we just decided to take a deep breath, put on a nice positive podcast or something, think positive thoughts, think of what you're grateful for, feel gratitude, what kind of a world would we live in? We wouldn't have as many accidents. We would not have the accidents because we wouldn't have that person who just decides, I'm going to get around and causing the accidents, or the person who deliberately, this happened just the other day, deliberately rams another car. Oh. Right? That happened on I-15 here in Salt Lake County recently, where they rammed into somebody multiple times with road rage. That's a choice. So how do I stay happy? I want happiness. This feels good. Yeah. Right? I want the high of being happy. And so it's a choice.
Yeah, it's a whole different feeling. Like, you can be fake happy, but true happiness where you just see everything as beautiful, it's a different feeling. I don't know how to even explain it.
It is. And you know what? If you have to fake it a little bit to get there, okay, we'll fake it a little bit. But every one of us has had a situation where we think of a person that we really love and appreciate, and the thought of them brings up that emotion within us, right? Think of your mother, think of your father, think of that person, whoever it is, a baby. And that's the easiest one for most human beings. If you think of a baby giggling and laughing, you can't help but feel the emotion of love, right? Okay, so if we can do that, I'm not holding a baby right here, but I can imagine a baby right there and how wonderful that feels to have this new little life in your arms, or a toddler that's just giggling and laughing and having fun, or the embrace of a loved one. I can imagine that and feel that love. So work on that imagining until you get to the point where you can just choose to change your state. And that's something that's worth working on. That's something that I teach people, and that I've been to a seminar where we spent a whole day just focusing on going from one state to another. And, okay, anger, be angry, and just let it all out and pound the table, and just build that anger. And then, okay, switch, be happy, and just laugh. And there was a situation in one of these, a great example, but laughter is contagious, right?
Oh, it's bad.
A smile is contagious. A true smile, especially where you can see it in your eyes, like I can see in yours right now. A true smile is something that people will feel the emotion from that. So this was with my CraftEasyTools. I was designing this new tool, and I had a group locally here who was helping me out, and a group of women who crocheted because I didn't, and they were testing the tool, and I came and I gave them all the tool, and I was doing some videos so that I could have something to promote the tool. And I told them all, I said, okay, now I need everybody to just laugh and have a good time, and so that we can so I can have something to show some happiness in the video, right? And some were like, well, can't just laugh. Like, how do we start that? And then one person there, one of the bubbliest people, Camille, thank you, Camille. She just laughed out loud. She was like, and everybody just burst out laughing. And it was true laughter because it was so ridiculous what she was doing, but it created the perfect environment that I was looking for, because she brought out this laugh of hers. And then it just, for several minutes there, everybody was just laughing and having a great time, no matter what's happening in life. So my daughter had an accident yesterday. Bring this up. So she's got this little bug that's a VW bug, red vehicle that she's just loved. And that's her car, that's her baby, and she keeps it clean inside and out and takes such good care of it. And she's driving up Redwood, and this car pulls in front of her to turn down a road, and she was following traffic but didn't realize that she was too early in the turn lane, and did a good job avoiding, it could have been worse, but clipped his tail end and wrecked her car. So I'm at home getting ready for my big day of all these things that I have to do, right? I had a lot planned for my businesses. This was my day off. This was my side business day. And I'm just getting ready to start the day. It was like 9 o'clock. It was 9:50 a.m. And I'd done my morning routines, and I was just heading downstairs. And then my wife gets this phone call, and she says, Brendan got in an accident. And my immediate thought is, okay, I've got to take care of my daughter, right? And the next thought is, okay, well, is she okay? Where is she? And my wife's on the phone talking to her, and I said, okay, I'm getting in the car, I'm going. I didn't even have to worry because of technology today. This is something I love. We have an app where we always know where each other is. Myself, my wife, and my daughter, we can always look each other's location up, right? And so that came into my mind. Like, I don't even have to ask where she is. I don't have to worry or think. I can just grab my keys, get in the car, tap on her, and go, and it'll take me to her. And that was so nice to have that as a father, because I didn't have to waste time. I didn't have to worry. I was there within probably 15 minutes of her accident happening. And of course, she was grateful for that. She was crying and she was struggling. She was having a tough time. And so I got there and hugged her and held her. We talked to the police, did the report and everything. And, half her bumper's gone, light destroyed. I mean, she wasn't hurt. The airbag didn't go off. It wasn't a tragic thing. Nobody was hurt. but her car was pretty messed up, and of course it's traumatic for her, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so I helped her fill out all the paperwork. We were there for probably an hour getting all that done, and then talking to her and calling the insurance and back and forth with them and my wife and the collision company to go take care of the car. And that became my day. So all these things I had planned, it was easy for me to just set that aside. Like, I'm not doing that. I might get to some of it later, but this is so much more important right now, right? And so I did what was important. And then we drove the car to the collision place and checked in there and got all that set up. And the insurance offered a rental car, and she has to go to work the next day. So we've got to have a rental car. And of course, she can't drive it. So we had to shift cars, and she drives my wife's car and my wife takes the rental. And so all of this had to be figured out. And so went to the collision place, got her home, more comfort, more talking her through it, helping her understand it's no big deal. You're not hurt. Don't worry. It's just a thing. Yeah, there's money involved. There's cost involved. The insurance is going to go up. I could focus on all that and feel woe is me. Oh, I'm going to have to pay the deductible. Our insurance costs are going to go up. We're going to have to get a new car. It's so inconvenient. My daughter's alive.
Yeah.
Right? She deserves the comfort, and for me not to worry about the money, and for her, she doesn't need to see us as the caretakers stressing about money and thinking of lack in this moment, because that's just going to make her feel worse, right? So that was my thought there. And it's interesting, as I'm going through all this and mentoring my daughter and coaching my daughter through the process, helping lift her and comforting her, I had multiple sales come in on my business that, if not completely covered the deductible, were close to what the deductible was anyway. And so that wasn't lost on me. That was me, again, just confirming my faith that everything will always work out. We'll always have what is needed. And that's one of the things I love about the many different business things I have, eBay, Etsy, websites, all these things that I have out there. There have been so many situations like that in life where something tough happens and we've got a cost here, and I just got a sale, right? And it covers the cost. And it's like, it's always going to be there.
Yeah.
Everything's okay. We're going to have our needs met. And so that's my set point. It is hard some days with my wife having again, I'm up here, she's down here. I mean, totally opposite on the spectrum. And it is difficult many days where I live with that constant negative emotion. And while we can't control others, we can influence others. We do feel each other's emotions, right? We have a bit of overlap there. And so I'll say I'm grateful for the opportunity that I've had being married to her, to constantly be challenged to keep my levels up and to find a way to work through that so that I can still be on a high, even though she's down here and I love her and I'm with her. And I, for the longest time in our marriage, I tried to fix her. I tried to change her. I thought that I could help her level up. And when I finally let go of that and realized, no, I can't. She has to do that for herself. She has to make that adjustment, that change. When I finally let go of that, things not only got easier for me, but she started leveling up. That's when she started. So that's still a constant challenge for me, because I want her to be happy. I don't want her to suffer. And so when I see her having that suffering day, my instinct is to fix it. And that's still a challenge for me. I've got to step away. I've got to let her be her, let her deal with her own journey, and focus on me staying where I need to be and not letting that experience of us pull me down, you know? And some days I lose. Some days I'm not up here, you know? Some days I blow up and you know, I'll even get mad at her and, you know, tell her how hard it is for me to be positive when she's down here, you know? And to her credit, with the improvements I've seen with her lately, she deals with me blowing up at her like that, where I shouldn't. I feel like that is not something I should do as her spouse. I should always be supportive. I should always be loving no matter how hard it is. That's my job as her husband. And so when, you know, there were times when we were younger that would happen and we'd fight for days and we would butt heads and she would never admit that, you know, she'd be totally defensive and never admit any wrongdoing or any need to change or anything. It was always my fault. That's how I always felt. And now I recognize there's two of us. We're both at fault. If we're arguing, if we're fighting, we're both at fault. If I raise my voice, that's my issue. That's my fault. She doesn't control me, you know, and I shouldn't let her emotional state control me. And so I've noticed as she's been improving that, when those situations, when I falter, I can come back to her and it's all love. So there's no longer that button heads and that confrontation for days. She forgives like that. And that's progress. I mean, that's huge, you know? And so I still feel like she's got room to grow, but guess what? She's not the only one. I think I've probably got a little room to grow too. So happiness is a choice. Is that another long answer to I have a lot to say.
Well, unfortunately, we are out of time, but is there anything you'd like to tell the audience about you, the inventions that you've made, the books that you're writing, anything that you'd like to tell them about anything?
So I would love for you to look me up and see what I'm doing as far as presentations. Sage and Plow in American Fork is probably where I'll be doing a lot of these, and so you can check them out. The book most likely will be coming out later this year or next. I've still got so much to organize that and bring it together.
And what are the book's names you're...
So right now, the working title is Success by Accident, because so many of the things that I have accomplished and as I look at the businesses that I've done, it was basically, it wasn't something that I was looking to do. It was kind of an accidental thing, an opportunity that came and I took advantage of it. And I see that with so many other people that I've studied that are so successful in life. They didn't plan on doing what they are successful at. It just, there was something that happened in life and they ended up in that. And so that's the topic, the working title. That may change a little bit. I've got this other idea called the hidden door, with, you know, the idea of just opening the right door, kind of, but the same idea. And the other one, I believe I told you about, was failure is the only option.
Yeah.
Because if you're not willing to fail, it's hard to make anything succeed, because everything doesn't just work out perfectly the first time.
Yeah, unfortunately.
So, but they're both along the same lines of that idea of having the right mindset, choosing happiness, choosing success, because you know that you can create it.
I like it. And then where can people find you or learn whatever you're going to be doing public speaking? So
successbyaccident.com is a website that I will be building. I don't even think it's up right now. But wildutahedibles.com is an easy way to find me. That's one of the things I love doing, is teaching people about wild edible plants. So wildutahedibles.com, mike@wildutahedibles.com is my email. So that's probably the easiest way to be sure to get in touch with me.
Perfect. And then can people, send friend requests over Facebook, Instagram, or do you not really like that?
You know what? All that social media stuff, if I know you in person, and we're friends, then I'll I'll accept a friend request. But yeah, I don't accept friend requests from strangers that I don't know in real life. So reach out to me. I'm happy to take a phone call, communicate an email, but I'd rather get to know you first, like this, before I generally connect online. So yeah, if you send a random friend request, I'm probably going to just delete.
Probably not.
That's just me. I'm fairly active in some fronts on social media, but I don't post on my own page a lot. And for me, social media is either business. You can follow me on Instagram for the ViperSharp, the CraftEasyTools, the Wild Utah Edibles. You can follow my business Facebook pages, but my personal page on Facebook, it's there to connect with family and friends in the real world,
Understandable. Well, I'll make sure to put all of your links into the description so people can go to your business website and social media so they can learn more about you and those 3 aspects. Is there anything else you'd like to tell them?
I have learned that my mission in life is to affect others in a positive way, to lift others. And so that's what I'm trying to do. That's what I'm going after. Whether it's profitable for me or not, that's what I want to do. And so I hope that something I've said here has helped somebody out there. If anybody has, if you see this and you want me to come speak to your group or company or something, hey, reach out to me. I would welcome any opportunities like that. So,
well, hopefully one of you guys hit him up and would love a public speaking, because the stories he's been telling me even before the podcast, incredible. Probably the most outgoing person I know. But Mike, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Everyone, please hit him up, learn more about him and the things that he's into and wants to provide for other people, because it's like nothing else I really know. But everyone, thank you so much for listening. Thank you, Mike, for so much for being on my podcast. If you guys enjoy what you like, I'll make sure to put all his description stuff in the description. Let me know if you want to get a hold of him, and I'll definitely catch you guys on the next one. Like, subscribe. You guys have a good day. See you guys.
take care.